welcome to the webinar on effective cloud security governance, a CISO's guide. So to start with team, first of all, I'll give you my introduction. Then we'll basically discuss about what exactly is going to be in this webinar. So most people know me. My name is Krish. I'll be a speaker for this 2 days webinar session. And just to give you my background, and I'm an enterprise cloud architect. I basically support business to move to cloud platform, design their cloud security solutions, perform a cloud governance, and design cloud policies and risk management, auditing, etc. I do technical expertise as well on various cloud platforms, including AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Azure, etc. And for more information, you can visit my LinkedIn profile. So in the webinar for the next 2 days, team, we will be covering about these particular aspects. So we'll start with the cloud security landscape. What exactly is cloud security and what is a cloud security landscape? Then we'll basically talk about the how to build a proper cloud security governance framework, and then we'll go to the essential cloud security governance practices and leadership and communication for effective governance in cloud. So today, we'll start with the introduction part of this, where we'll discuss about the cloud security landscape. Now, basically, as we all know, when you go to a cloud platform, either Amazon or Azure or GCP or any cloud platform, now cloud is getting more and more in demand day by day. Like for example, even though in the last few years, there's a lot of companies has just driven back from cloud to on-premises, but now you can see a rise. If you see the figures now, you can see a lot of rise in companies that is moving to cloud platforms like Google Cloud Platform, AWS, Azure, Oracle, etc. And when people and companies go to cloud platform, okay, so previously cloud was only used for hosting some virtual machines and storing some simple data, but within the last 8 to 9 years or 8 to 10 years, you can see that the cloud is being a central point of the whole ICT infrastructure of the business, including data, including applications, critical data, then servers. So we are hosting a lot of stuff on the cloud platform nowadays. And obviously, as a part of moving things to the cloud platform, and obviously as a part of moving a lot of things to the cloud platform, including machine learning, AI, data storage, databases, computing, and all these things, the cloud security is also a major concern, a major challenge of concern. First of all, before we discuss about the cloud security challenges in depth, I will give you some examples of this team. So when you go to a cloud platform, obviously whatever risk we have in the on-premises, we have it in the cloud as well. That's a simple thing, right? Whatever the risk we have in the on-premises, like physical security or maybe a chance of compromise, and whatever it is, whatever risk we have in the on-premises is basically there in the cloud as well. At the same time that we have all the risk in the on-premises, the cloud is introducing a lot more security risk. Okay, I'll give you some examples. Just some few examples to make it clear to you. The first thing is that team, like for example, you know that in the cloud platform, cloud is not something where as a customer you are getting some dedicated infrastructure. So what happens is that in the cloud platform, especially when you go to public cloud providers, we have a concept called as a multi-tenancy. You all know that we have a concept called as a multi-tenancy. That means that we, on a single piece of hardware or on a same piece of hardware, different customers are basically storing their data, right? Different customers are basically storing their data on the same piece of hardware, and even though there is a logical separation there, we are sharing our infrastructure with multiple customers. So that is one major challenge in cloud computing, which is additionally introduced than what we have in the on-premises. The second important challenge we are having is that when you go to a cloud platform, you have a single point of failure. See, now in the on-premises, let's say for example, I have a server here. This is my server number 1, this is my server number 2, this is my server number 3. Like this, if I have servers in my on-premises, I can basically have a specific level of access control to each kind of servers and database, etc. But if you go to a cloud platform, we have one more major concern, which is basically what we call as a management console. We have something called as a management console. If you see my GCP console or AWS console, so whatever it is, we access the cloud platform through a management plane or management console. Okay, so what happens is that whatever you're configuring, let's say that you're configuring some servers, you're configuring some storages, you're configuring some databases, you're configuring machine learning, whatever you are configuring, either it's in the AWS cloud platform or Azure or GCP or any kind of a cloud platform, this one particular thing can be a single point of failure. Team, can you completely lock this down and secure a team? Is it possible for us to completely secure a cloud management console or a cloud management plane? No, definitely not possible, right? Because at the end of the day, when you go to a cloud platform, this one is an additional risk we are having. That's why reason why I refer it to as a single point of failure. Like the same way, the third thing is that when you go to a cloud platform, okay, Krish, I want to have a storage, I want to have a database, I want to have a machine learning, I want to have a compute, I want to have a server, whatever you want, all these things are given to you in the form of services which are accessible over the internet, right? So if something is basically exposed to internet, we can never say that, okay, this is going to be 100% secure, this is going to be 100% safer. Not possible, right? Obviously these things can be a serious challenge for you. Now, why I am saying this? So, Krish, are you saying that let's not go to cloud because we have a lot of risk in the cloud platform? Let's not go to cloud. No, I'm saying that like the same way the cloud brings you a lot of capabilities, you will see a lot of capabilities. We will discuss some of them actually, but you will see a lot of capabilities when you go for the cloud platform. Okay, as a part of all these benefits coming or all these perks coming as a part of going to cloud platform, we do have these kind of risk and security challenges coming up. That's the reason why I'm saying that cloud security is now the hottest thing in the market. So okay, Krish, how do I know that what you're saying is right? How do I basically have an assurance that now there is a lot of demand for people in cloud security? If you see any job roles, if you see a job role of a SOC specialist, cloud, if you see a lot of things like cloud security specialist, you can see a lot of stuff. Like you have more than 200 plus job roles active in the market, type of job roles. So in most of the job roles now you will see this word cloud because companies are using cloud in one form or other. At least 80% plus organizations are now using cloud in at least one form or other. Because uh, if you stick on to the legacy governance or legacy security strategies, that won't work completely in the cloud platform. So we need to have some, we need to come up with some new kind of a strategy or plan for the cloud strategy. That's the reason why we need people for cloud security. So before I discuss about the key challenges in cloud computing and how to have a proper governance and all, let's talk about some benefits of cloud adoption. See, there is a lot of factor, I will highlight this. Obviously, this is the highlight, this is the financial aspect, which is the highlight. See, a startup, let's assume that we have a startup. Okay, a startup who basically want to focus on their business, a startup who simply want to focus on their exact job. Okay, the startup who basically want to focus on their business, if they go behind spending a lot of money on building the infrastructure, managing the application backend is a hectic thing because they want to focus on their business. So for example, a startup like this can leverage cloud services to launch their website or application without any significant initial investment on servers or softwares or anything like that, so that that capital is completely freed up from other essential areas. That's one major reason why people go to cloud computing. So cost is one major reason, even though we have to be careful while managing the cost, because I will definitely plan one extra webinar for this, because I have seen that in my whole experience consulting with a lot of organizations worldwide for their cloud governance or cloud activities and all. I have seen that this is one major concern for many businesses. Having a proper understanding and having a proper cost management is a major concern. Okay, that's the second, the cost optimization. Then obviously, we have a scalability and agility, because now see, let's say for example we have a business. Okay, so leave any company, think about your company. Is your company doing the same thing from on 2010 and 2015 and 2022 and 2024? Does your company do the same thing, like exact same number of customers, exact same activities, exact thing kind of infrastructure? Do you think so? Things keep on changing, right? Things keep on changing. If I want to compare that with your day-to-day activities, if I'm telling you, I will give you 2 GB data per month, okay? For your mobile phone, I'll give you 2 GB data per month. You will say, Krish, that is more than enough. But now if I'm telling you, I will give you 10 GB data per day, Krish, you will say, Krish, is too much. It's not sufficient for us, right? So what I'm trying to say is that when you go to a cloud, when you go to a business requirements keep on changing up dynamically. They keep on changing. So this agility is super important for a business, especially the agility of the infrastructure is basically super important for the business. Now let's assume that your company has invested a huge amount of money on building a server rack, okay? So we have a complete server rack where we have multiple servers, and we have invested a huge amount of money on this. So this is something, let's say we have done on 2020, 2015, and after some 3-4 years, or maybe after 5 years, this will 101% will get outdated, right? So in that perspective, how can you basically, again, that is an investment you have made, that money will go in vain, right? So you want to have an infrastructure which can completely work with, which can completely go hand in hand with your ICT, with your business requirements. And that is one major reason why companies go to cloud platform. Because if you see, let's say for example, if I go to a cloud platform, let's say if I want to deploy a VM in my cloud platform, my AWS platform, or any cloud platform, it's a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. I can deploy the entire VM and I can connect to it, whether it's a VM with a single core CPU and 1 GB RAM, or whether we have a VM with a we have a 32 core CPU and 1 TB of RAM. It's completely fine, right? So the cloud is completely agile. This agility is basically what people needs when you basically go for a business, and obviously in a decent manageable cost. And obviously scalability. What is scalability there? Scalability in the sense means that now you have a business, and based on a demand, your infrastructure must cope up with the dynamic fluctuating requirements. That's scalability, right? So either scalability or agility or cost optimization, all these things are basically one major benefits of cloud computing if you know how to manage it, or if you know how to utilize it properly. The third thing basically we are having is basically what we call as a resiliency, okay? So it's a capacity to withstand or to recover from kind of a failures is what we call as a resiliency, right? And you always want to have a resilient infrastructure. So can you tell your customers tomorrow that, okay, because we have a downtime in our data center, we are not able to provide you service for next 3 days? Is it possible? No, right? You must be prepared. You must be prepared. You must be having a highly resilient infrastructure, right? So you cannot complain your customers that like you cannot complain to your customers regarding all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, it's basically your customers want to get this quality of service. So what we need is we need to have a resilient infrastructure. And the last one is basically very much interesting team, even though we feel that is less commonly known, but it's very interesting actually, called as managed services. So let me give an example for this. Now think about this. So we want to host a database, okay? We want to host a database. So if you want to host a database, normally what we do is that we have to first of all find the right amount of hardware. That is the first thing, right? We have to first select the right amount of hardware. It's not an easy job. Like if anyone here who have done that, you will know that it's not easy for you to simply go for any kind of hardware and pick it up. It is a hectic job to get the right type of hardware for your requirement. In fact, when I wanted to buy a laptop for myself, I'd research for almost 3-4 weeks. So for buying a corporate enterprise hardware, it needs a proper research, a proper future forecast, and all this kind of stuff, right? So that is the first thing. Then again, we need to have a hardware, we need to have a backup, we need to have redundancy also. Backup hardware must be there. Then we need to have an operating system where you have to manage the OS updates, OS patching, OS maintenance, OS configuration, OS troubleshooting. Then you need to have buy a database software where you have to basically talk about the DB installation, DB troubleshooting, DB management, etc. Also high availability, replication, backup, performance. Like this, you have some thousand tasks to do, right? If you basically go for something called as a managed DB services, Okay, if you basically go for something called as a managed DB service, it means that in a managed DB service, we get a benefit which we call it as the cloud service provider will take care of, they will manage a lot of things for us. For example, let's say if you basically go for let's say AWS, let's say RDS, okay, AWS RDS or AWS DynamoDB or Azure SQL Service, or maybe if you go for some kind of a Google database service, Google Google database service like Firestore, Data Store, Big Table, or some kind of a Google database service. So what happens is that when you basically go for a Google database service or AWS database service, etc., this means that you don't have to think about anything. Just sit peacefully. You just understand what exactly you need, and they will take care of choosing the hardware. They will choose the, in most of the managed services, they will choose the right amount of hardware for you. They will take care of this particular, leave it, this is completely the responsibility of cloud service provider. This also they will take care, replication, failover, backup, monitoring, they will take care, scalability. You think about your DB only. The DBMS software and everything is taken by the cloud service provider, right? That is an example for a managed soft service. I'll give you another example for a managed service. Now, if you basically go to, let's say, if I'm going to my AWS cloud platform, I'm giving an example, that's all. So you can see that there's a lot of things. For example, if you want to host a service, you can go for Elastic Beanstalk, you can go for App Runner. These are all managed services. So now I'll give you one more very interesting example. Does anyone have a experience or manage a Kubernetes cluster? They will know the pain of maintaining that particular nodes running. They know the concern of basically making sure that everything have a backup and high availability, continuous monitoring and all, because the hardware and everything is taken care by you only. But if you go for a managed container service like Google containers, Google Kubernetes service, or if you go to AWS EKS or ECS or Azure AKS, etc., let cloud service provider take the headache there. You have to simply think about, this is the container I need. Other than that, let them take care of the infrastructure, let them take care of the hardware, let them take care of that bugging installation part, let them do it. Like this, the cloud provides you thousands of benefit, and that is the reason why companies go to cloud. For sure, there is no other reason. That is a major reason why companies go to cloud, right? So as the part of all these benefits, if you want, if you want, I can talk about benefits of cloud for a whole day. A whole day I can talk about the benefits of cloud. In fact, from all the companies I have went for, there are multiple reasons why people go for cloud. The cloud brings a lot of benefits, but provided there is something which is called as a lack of cloud governance strategy. This is basically one major reason, team. Now you can see there is a lot of companies going to cloud, for sure. Lot of companies going to cloud. At the same time, lot of companies are coming back to on premises. Why? Because they face a lot of challenges. Okay, they face a lot of challenges now. But this scenario, that's a reason why. Okay, now we see that, okay, for this reason, Krish, I'm going back to on premises. For that reason, I'm going back to on premises. Yes, you can go back to on premises, but again, there is another, we have some thousand more things waiting in the on premises. So it's not about going back to on premises or basically, simply getting angry with the cloud. It's about getting the right stuff, getting the proper preparation, getting the proper strategy, getting the proper tactics on the cloud platform. This is how the cloud can basically help you. So let me talk about, so we are talking about advantages for a long time, and obviously, I am so much very better to talk about the drawbacks as well, or the challenges as well. So then we'll talk about the governance aspects of it. The first and the most important challenge we are having is a shared responsibility model, team. Let's take an example. So we have a business. Okay, we have a business and we have the business stakeholders. Okay, so the governance is a process by which your organization ensures that your organizations and stakeholder needs and their requirements are properly understood, properly evaluated, properly understood, and it must be achieved in a proper, graceful, balanced manner, right? So for example, this is my management intention, this is my business goal, business mission and vision, this is my management intention. So these things are properly understood, and based on that we identify the proper strategies, and based on that we want to achieve that in a balanced, graceful manner. That is means to align with the things, right? Like regulatory or compliance, all these factors are part of the business requirement, right? So that's how the governance works. Okay, and when you go for a governance, you have different ways for implementing governance. You have, let's say, if you talk about governance, you have policies, you have procedures, you have a standards, you have a lot of things like that. Okay, you have a policy. So what is a policy? Policy is basically a foundation, right? A policy is a foundation, and from the policy, we make a standard, and the standard is and using the standard we basically define the, we first of all have the business inputs. From that we make a policy which is a strategic nature, and then from the policy we make a standards, and from the standards we make the proper guidelines, procedures, and all this kind of stuff, right? So we'll discuss about that in detail, but don't worry, I'm just telling you. So in all these things we have only one thing. We only have something called as a organization and its customers. That's all, nothing more, right? When talking about governance, this is the only thing we are thinking about, or this is the, we have a business plus we have our customers, nobody else. But when you go to a cloud platform, okay, when you say that you are going to a cloud platform, the first most important thing is the team, this governance is shared with the cloud service provider. So Krish, how can it be governance is basically the concern of my business? How can you say that it's shared with the business, with the cloud service provider? When you go to a cloud platform, you are utilizing their pre-configured infrastructure. You are utilizing their pre-structured services. That means that you are trying to utilize their services in the way they have designed it. So that means that a lot of governance act, for example, let's say in cloud platform, there is a in data center. Okay, there is a data center, and this data center is completely taken care by the cloud service provider. That means the physical security, the certifications and standards of the data center, all these concerns will be taken care by the cloud service provider. So what I'm trying to say is that when you go to a cloud platform, this is one major challenge in governance, which is called as a shared responsibility model. That means that we have, there is a responsibility matrix where the provider has some responsibilities and the customer has some responsibilities. And if you see my previous workshops and webinar, I always say this. So even if you have a lot of models like IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and all this kind of stuff, these are all just outdated. As per what I always say, these are all outdated. So for example, let's say now I'll give an example here. Let's suppose that I am going to a service. Okay, I am going to a service here. Let's take, see, I'm going to a service called as EventBridge. I'm going to a service called as S3. I'm going to a service called as AWS Elastic Beanstalk. I'm going to a service called as AWS Lightsail. So can I, let's say all these are PaaS services. In that perspective, can I basically have the same kind of governance, same kind of a shared responsibility model for all these services? Okay, this is a kind of a PaaS service. So because it's a PaaS service, this is my responsibility, this is their responsibility. Is it like that? Can you have the same responsibility metrics for all these things? No, right? It is not possible for you to basically think that for all the PaaS services, this is my responsibility, this is their responsibility. For us, not like that. That's the reason I'm saying that these things are outdated. What, as always I say, what we have to consider is that you take a particular service. Okay, you take a particular service. Let's say, for example, we have a service here. You take a particular service. Let's say it can be AWS or Azure, whatever you take service. In that service selecting, what is my responsibility as a cloud service consumer? What is the provider's responsibility? Like this, you must have a proper, this is the first thing, team. This lack of a proper responsibility metrics understanding is the major reason why many companies fail. One of the major reasons why many companies fail in cloud, because now companies believe that security is the responsibility of the cloud service provider, let them take care of it. And we believe that it is our responsibility, or they believe that it's our responsibility. So it's all based on the shared responsibility model and having a proper visibility. This is one major challenge, which is basically that when you go to a cloud platform. The second most important, obviously, as I told you before, when you go to the cloud, The cloud, and like the same way it brings you a lot of thousands of benefits, it also have some drawbacks, like it increases the attack surface, like management plane, exposed APIs, exposed services, a lot of things are there. Then the next thing is that we have something called as a data sovereignty requirements. So when you have a data, okay, so we have a data, this data is stored in a particular country. Okay, this data is shown in a particular country. So as per the particular country, the data sovereignty means that it refers to the laws and regulations of the country on which your digital data is generated, processed, managed, and stored. That's what we call as data sovereignty. Now if you go to the cloud platform, okay, so in India we have something called as DPDP, right? And if you go to US, you have different laws. If you go to UK, if you go to the European countries, you have something called as a GDPR. Like this, you have a lot of stuff there, right? So what I'm trying to say is that these laws and regulations are there. So as per what the cloud service provider tells you, you believe that your data is in India, your data is in Europe, your data is in this particular location. But do you have a guarantee for that? Do you have an assurance regarding your data is properly stored or properly protected? No, just a piece of paper they are giving you. And tomorrow, if something goes wrong, if they make a mistake, you are in trouble, right? That is a third major challenge when you go to a cloud platform: data sovereignty regulations. Now, see, so how do we ensure that? Like, for example, now I'm storing my data on AWS. Let's suppose that I go to my AWS cloud platform. I'm storing my data there. Okay, simple. I'm just uploading a file there. Let me show you what they will show me. Just give me a minute. So what I'm doing is that now you can see I have a storage bucket in Mumbai. See, I have a storage bucket in Mumbai. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to upload a file to this. Okay, I'm going to upload a file to this. So you can see I'm just uploading a file to it. Done. So you see that this particular file is uploaded to the Mumbai region. But what is the guarantee you have? Does this give you a guarantee? The only way is that you can definitely review their audit reports, and you can have a contract with them. That's the only way you can ensure this. But that doesn't give you 100% assurance, right? I guess I have a video already on the internet regarding discussing about data sovereignty versus residency and all. Okay, cool, perfect. That is one major concern, team. The fourth concern we are having is obviously security. Okay, when you say security, don't feel like I'm saying, see, that's the reason why we need people, we need proper experts in security in cloud computing. Because now I will tell you an example. Now I'm going to a cloud platform. Definitely, if even though if you believe it or not, I'm sure that people working in the cloud will know. Team, I will always say that this is something which I always say: cloud gives you more security, flexibility, and options than on premises. If you go to cloud makes your security more effective, more easy, and gives you a lot of options for deploying things, managing things, and your security is more easy in the cloud. I'm not saying that they will reduce the surface, but they will give you more security features and capabilities, very quickly and very effective. Like, there is no concern of, like, for example, you want to have a firewall. What do you want to basically buy a firewall? It's already there in the cloud. It's a virtual appliance, it's already there, right? So security is basically something where, even though the provider gives us a lot of tools and everything is there, like for example, now normally what we do is that if I go to a cloud platform, okay, like for example, let's say if I'm going to my cloud platform, you can see that we have a lot of security tools. See, lot of security tools for different activities. But okay, Krish, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this particular service. Like, I want to have a DLP tool. Let's assume I want to have data management tool. In AWS, I have a tool called as AWS Macy, which can help me for managing my data classification. But if I'm not happy with it, I can go for a third-party tool. If I have a vulnerability assessment tool in AWS called as AWS Inspector, which is a really good tool. But if I'm not happy with it, I can go for third-party tools, Nessus, Nextpost, College Guard. I can go for a lot of tools, right? But what I'm trying to say is that even though they are providing a lot of tools like this for security, and a lot of third-party tools are there, choosing the proper tool, choosing the right thing for the business requirement is what matters. Okay. And in fact, that is the reason why I'm saying the word security expert, cloud security experts, understanding what we need in what location, how we have to implement it, how we have to manage it. That's one major challenge. Even just as we are discussing this, I just want to tell you one more thing, because which I feel which is very very key challenge in cloud computing. We know that in the cloud you are charged for what we're utilizing. Writing, we are getting charged for what we are utilizing. There is no doubt in that. You use it, you pay for it. That's it, nothing more, right? So that means that if there is anyone in your company over provision something, add some more hardware, deploy some servers and forget to remove it, so every action you're doing in the cloud is chargeable, right? So again, that's one concern, right? That's one concern we are having. Like the same way, we have a lot of security. See, it's not about having a lot of security tools. It's about the proper understanding and knowledge of where to use it and how to use it. And that is what we have to basically understand. And the fifth one is basically what we call as a vendor lock-in or lockout. There's two different stuff actually, vendor lock-in. Now, let's take a simple example here. Okay, so I'm using, let's suppose that I go to a cloud platform. I don't want to say a name of a cloud service provider as a generic program, but still, let's say I go to a cloud service platform. You can think about any platform like AWS or Azure, whatever it is. And I go to a particular service which is only there in that provider. If you take an example, if I go to something called as a Azure Sentinel, or if I talk about AWS, let's say if I go to AWS Macy, or if I go to AWS DynamoDB. So I go for a tool which is only available in one vendor, and this tool is not basically available in any other vendors. So what happens? I will always get stuck with this provider, right? I'll give you multiple examples for this team. Now, I don't want to say the name of the vendor, but still I'll give an example. I have seen that there are many vendors. If you are willing to basically, use their services, they will give you massive discounts. Like especially, there's a lot of subscriptions where if you go to some particular cloud vendors, they will give you massive discounts if you are willing them to have a contract signed with each other. Okay, that means what? Until the contract is over, until the agreement is over, whatever happens, you will not be able to move to another provider. Okay, so due to some reason, if you are not able to move from one provider to another, that is basically what we call as a vendor lock-in. And that is very common scenario which I have seen in many businesses. Because when a company go to cloud, they develop a dependency naturally to the cloud vendor. Even though that we say that it's always dangerous, but many companies, what they do is that for convenience and because they feel that this cloud service provider will be there for a long time, they will develop a natural bonding with the cloud service provider, which will make them in trouble, which will never allow them to move to another vendor. That's basically what we call as a vendor lock-in. Okay, and vendor lockout is very rare, but it can happen. Vendor lockout is a scenario where the vendor goes out of business. Like for example, you go to a cloud service provider and the cloud service provider goes out of business. They close their business. It's called as vendor lockout. So either vendor lock-in or lockout, at the end of the day, you are in trouble. You're stuck. You have a lot of trouble, right? And the next thing, which you may not basically see in the other slides, is what we call as a complexity and skill gaps, or complexity and lack of a proper expertise. Okay, now let's suppose that team, we have an application in my company. Okay, I have an application in my company. A simple example, I have an application in my company. This application is developed on 1999. Okay, or maybe let's take a bit like a few years more, or 2005. Do you think that team, in all the cases, these kind of applications can be simply lift and shift to cloud? Okay, my company want to go to cloud, so let's do a lift and shift. Let's do a forklifting. Let's simply take it and put it to cloud. Is it possible? Okay, Krish, I have a lot of VMs running on VMware 5.x. I want to simply move to cloud in one snap. Is it possible? I have data in my on-premise. So that is complex, right? So because of this complexity of cloud and the way they are providing services and complexities in migration, this is one reason. Means nowadays surveys say that this is something, a major factor which is still blocking a lot of businesses from adopting the cloud platform. Even though you will feel, Krish, why are you saying that? There is a lot of people out there who is cloud experts, but still They at the end of the day, there's a lot of problems will come up, and we start solving one problem, and the next thing will keep on coming up. That's a common thing. And the next thing is skill gap. See, what is a skill gap? Now, let's say, in fact, I have done a separate video on this, but I'm telling you that when you go for a business, this is one major challenge, because there must be people in your company, or at least consultants, who must have a proper, a seasoned expertise in dealing this cloud security, cloud adoption framework, the migration process step by step, the compliance requirements, security architecture. So there is a thorough need of people who have all this kind of stuff. Like, for example, now you are saying, Krish, I'm good in on-premise, I'm good in VMware. No, how can you say you're good in cloud? Krish, I know AWS, I have learned AWS certified solutions architect, I have learned Azure architect, I have learned Google certification. No point of that. At the end of the day, the actual skill of this particular process is needed, because this see, now I have seen this, like, yeah, I'm sure many people here also have the same or more experience than me on this particular part. Let's say, when we say you're doing a migration, okay, if you see AWS website or if you see Azure website, they will say that, yeah, it's a simple job. You plan, you test, you execute, you migrate. They will see some 4 5 steps and the story is over. But when you do it in real time, can you do this way? Can you simply do it this way, like in a single click, or maybe in 3 4 days within a single click you can do that? What do you feel, team? I'm sure that if anyone has done a complex migration activity, you will know the pain for sure. I'm sure I have company here. See, it's not a normal job to simply move it to cloud platform. Okay, after moving to cloud, what is our plan? After moving to cloud, we must align it properly. So, for example, team, now one major activity we are doing is what we call as data classification. Okay, data classification, to make sure that we can protect the data based on the sensitivity and criticality. I agree with that. Okay, so we classify data based on sensitivity and value which provides to the business. Now, in the on-premises, this is how you want to classify data. But when you go to cloud platform, do you know how to basically classify data? What tools we have to use? How do I basically make a proper tagging policy? How do I monitor it? How do I enforce it? How do I audit it? All these things are major concerns we are having, right? So this is basically something which we have to have a proper skills on. It's not regarding moving to cloud, or let's say, see, team, like, I don't know how you'll feel, but definitely this is what I want to always tell you. It's not something where you learn AWS or Azure or GCP or CCSP or CCAK or whatever it is. You can learn all these things, as which will give you a very good extensive amount of knowledge, but know how to practically apply this knowledge. For example, okay, we are saying tagging is very important for cloud, but how do we apply this tagging? Give me a practical example on how can I tag things in cloud, or how to make a proper tagging policy. In AWS, what is a tool we can use for ensuring this tagging is happening? So when there is a person who is uploading data, how do I ensure that the person is doing a proper tagging there? If not, how can I rectify it? So like this, I have a lot of, so this is basically the gaps I'm talking about. I'm not talking about gaps of people there, I'm talking about lacks of certain skills for the people. That is what we need to basically understand in cloud computing. And the next thing is basically, very interesting, obviously, resistance to the adoption of cloud, or basically resistant to change, is an inherent act. This is basically there. Because if you ask me, so currently I am currently on cloud for a long time. From 2010 I am on cloud. But again, if you tell me, Krish, cloud is outdated, go for something else, it'll take some time for me. I have to make my mind convinced I need to go to something else. It'll take some time. Like the same way, when there's a business which is going very smoothly and slowly, effectively, when you basically have to move to a new technology or advanced technology, or maybe different technology, it takes some time. Okay, most businesses are not so easy willing to basically have a proper thing. And obviously, team, for this particular part, I will give you a very very critical input. If you talk about cloud, if you talk about any adoption, any kind of technology or any adoption, I will tell you the most important thing. Nobody will tell you this. This is the most important thing. Get your management support. correct me if I'm wrong, team. This is the toughest part I will feel. Make your company, make your stakeholders, make your C roles, and make your company people understand the need of why we are doing this, and having their full support of this, complete support, complete management buy-in, management support is most important or most critical factor for adopting any technology, including cloud. So team, this is one thing. And the last thing is obviously, existing investments. Like many people said here, existing data money, they have invested a huge amount of money for existing data centers or existing infrastructure. When you say you're moving to cloud platform, that means that this particular infrastructure, you have a lot of money you have invested. One day morning, you cannot basically ditch all this thing and go to cloud. So that's the reason why many companies to now go for hybrid cloud and a kind of a different architecture like that. Okay, but it is very important, team. Now the businesses are again moving a lot to cloud. If you see the Gartner values and if you see the current market trend, you will see that there's a lot of companies now again going to cloud, increasing their cloud ecosystem, expanding their cloud horizon. The reason is because as the same way the cloud brings a lot of challenges and drawbacks like this, the cloud do provides a lot more benefits as well. Now, the second thing is that, okay, now moving on to the next thing, team. See, as I told you before, all these things are the concerns of thing. And when you go to the cloud platform, there is a lot of new threats coming. But before that, I'll tell you one more thing. The threats we'll discuss tomorrow, and we'll have one more thing today. Now, one major challenge we are having is basically what we call as a compliance and regulatory challenges. Now, how is compliance and regulatory challenges a concern for us? So let's suppose that this is something which I am saying in multiple webinars and all. So we have an organization. Okay, we have an organization which is basically handling the healthcare data. Okay, healthcare data in the US. Okay, like let's say we have a medical insurance company, or we have a hospital, or we have some kind of a vaccine company or something like that, who is, or kind of a big pharma companies like that, who handle the healthcare data of people in US. Now, which regulation they have to comply with? Which regulation they have to comply with? HIPAA, right? They have to comply with the HIPAA, right? So it's a very common thing. HIPAA is basically something they have to comply with, right? The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, right? Now, this organization is now migrating completely to the cloud platform. Okay, and the cloud service provider is already HIPAA compliant. Okay, does it mean that my business can leave the headache? I am deploying everything on a infrastructure which is HIPAA compliant or which is already HIPAA compliant. Does it mean that my concerns are over? They will take care of all the things. Compliance, they will take care. Is it like that? At the end of the day, it will become the compliance and regulatory things will always stay as our responsibility. Tomorrow, the first thing we will discuss is what we will discuss about a concept called as compliance inheritance. So I'll show you how it works, but understand that either if you go for HIPAA or GDPR or PCDSS or any of these things like that, the concerns are like we are always liable for this. Okay, I will give an example. If you now in HIPAA, if you give an example, see, I don't want to say the name of the company, but in 2019, okay, in 2019, there's a huge hospital chain, okay, a hospital chain, which is a very famous hospital chain, has got a data breach, okay, and they have exposed of nearly, I guess, now some kind of a millions of customers' data was breached because of this particular data breach happened, and it was a breach happened on a cloud storage. Okay, and the major reason for this particular was a misconfiguration. Just if you can Google it, you'll find things. Okay, misconfiguration. A particular survey in 2019 has revealed that almost like 572 healthcare data breaches has happened in particular 2019 itself, which basically exposed almost like 41.4 million patient records. Okay, so it's not because the AWS storage or Azure storage, the storage is bad. It's because of misconfiguration, lack of proper understanding of what to basically configure, either in the management aspect or in technical aspect. See, the management has to define this is what we need. Then only the technical people can do that, right? And technical people must also make sure it's properly aligned, right? Either any of this fails, the whole thing is going to be in trouble, right? The same happens for PCDs also, right? And that's a very common story nowadays. If you basically see that there's a lot of companies has, like, if you see the Capital One data breach, a lot of things happen like that, right? GDPR, like this, there is a lot of things can happen. So what I'm trying to say is that, team, when you basically go for a cloud platform, we have, as the, like the same way cloud brings a lot of benefits, it also have a lot of challenges as well. So tomorrow what we do, tomorrow we'll discuss about something called as a compliance inheritance, and then we'll discuss about something called as how to we'll for this first discuss about the NIST cybersecurity framework on how it can be used for cloud platform, and we will talk about how to build a step-by-step cloud governance framework, and what is the role of a leadership and CISO in that. Okay, that's it. That's a plan for tomorrow. Okay, so team, tomorrow we'll continue and we'll discuss further more about a lot of more things in which is in a more governance perspective. Thank you, team. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.